Gamers, as many of you know, patch 1.1.3 reduced the duration of Ekko's install super. And while that was a pretty sizable nerf to his Oki, it did actually bring with it some pretty interesting positive side effects. Today I'm going to give you a crash course on Ekko's 6S2 install loops, why I think they're good, how they work, and how you can start implementing them into your game plan today. So I'm sure you all are familiar with Ekko's install. You know, it allows him to reset his pressure mid-string, combo off a ton of stuff solo that he normally needs assist for. And last patch, that mainly led to a bunch of time winder resets in the corner. So you do stuff like, this, all that kind of stuff. And what time winder was really good at was stalling. What that pressure was really good at was stalling. And you'd actually see a lot of the top players using it primarily not as a mix-up tool. Of course, mix-ups were present, but as a way to stall for their assist to come back. And while that's still possible, the removal of the Kara install and the reduced duration of the install itself make that quite a bit harder and a little bit less appealing. It also had pretty major issues sticking to your opponent if you found yourself in the corner. So, for instance, if you tried to do a cross up into an overhead and then went into the time winder, I'm plus a ton, but I'm super far away. This is like an entirely unusable mix-up situation. So the rest of my install is basically useless, right? But if I do the same thing, come in, go over the top, 1, 2, 3, into 6S2, into the recall, you can see that I'm actually right up in their face at +4. And the reason that this works is because 6S2 actually resets the location of your clone. So if I come over here, and then I'm sprinting, and I hit 6S2, you'll see that the clone immediately goes to the spot that I started the 6S2 at. Do it again. And it immediately teleports to the starting spot of the 6S2. The same thing actually works with roll, but roll doesn't have a hitbox. So that's a little bit less useful for the specific stuff that we're going to be talking about today. So like I mentioned in the previous section, 6S2 into an immediate rewind is +4. Now this is already great because our 5M is 10 frames. And that means that we get a frame trap on anybody who has a 7-frame jab. You can see we cleanly beat them out there. Unfortunately, once we start fighting characters with 6-frame jabs, 5M is going to start trading. You can see there. We were +8 after we hit them there, but we were so far away that there's like basically nothing we get off of this. But that is where 3L comes in. Still a pretty decently long-range poke, and it comes out on frame 9. See, we cleanly beat Vi there. Now, the reason you don't always want to do 3L is that it can lose to like them jumping away, it kind of loses to backdash, and it also gives you a lot more scaling because of the light starter, as opposed to the M starter. But later in the combo section, you'll see that that scaling problem isn't really an issue. The damage can still get crazy high. So now that we've conditioned our opponent to block with our frame traps, we can start to mix in our overheads and our throws. So you can see that overhead actually had some pretty significant range to it, and that's actually a direct result of the dash that you get coming out of replay. And that also is what allows this throw to connect. You can see you could throw them into the corner and combo even without having to resort to break. Alright, so we've hit them with our throws, we've hit them with our overheads, we've hit them with our frame traps. They've decided that they don't want to take this mix anymore. They are going to level 3 out of here. And unfortunately for us, if we were to just go like this, we can't block. Can't block while you're in that little dash. What you can do is jump cancel the dash and block in the air. You can actually even do the jump cancel after the super flash. You have time. Then after that, of course, we get a full combo push. And then, of course, as you can see, push block does effectively nothing. Retreating guarding all 3 hits actually still leaves them in range for delayed overhead 5M and 2M. So they can't escape even if they retreating guard. Of course, also, if you wanted to start with a 2L and then a 5M instead of the 5M, 5H, then you would also break retreating guard, and they would be even less far back. But even in the worst case scenario, retreating guard doesn't get them out. Back jump can be chased down after the rewind. Or you can make a hard call out with an air throw. And finally, backdash gets clipped by 5M. So now we get to get into the really fun part, the combos and the extensions on hit. 6S2 into immediate rewind is plus 12 on hit, and our 5M is 10 frames, meaning that this is a true combo. Now, you can only get 3 reps or 9 hits before the hit stun scaling causes it to drop, but in practice, you're actually going to run out of install meter before you get there anyway. Speaking of the install meter, I think it's time we finally address the elephant in the room. Everything I've shown you so far has had infinite install meter turned on. Now, everything in the previous section actually works completely normally with that turned off, but there's some really important stuff you need to know specifically for the 6S2 loop combos. So generally what we're going to be aiming for is for the install meter to run out directly after the second loop, as it allows us to cleanly transition into Ekko's normal S2 B&Bs. Now if you go into training mode right now and you try and do that combo that I just showed you, you're going to find that you can't. Your install meter was still too long. And you're right, you actually need to wait for the meter to go down about 25% for the timing to work out properly. But it's not actually as big of an issue as you probably think it is. Let's take a look at Ekko's most common post-patch install combo route in the corner here. And this is heavily simplified, but it still does the same thing. The timing is the same. Shouts out, by the way, to PiketeFGC. I think that's how you spell it. They're Spanish, so I hope I said that right. They were the first one I saw doing this, and their socials will be in the description. But yeah, I'll do it again, and this time, I really want you to pay attention to how much of the install meter is consumed before the meaty time window connects. That's right. It's almost exactly 25%. That means that after the most common Oki setups, our combos are auto-timed to have the install expire exactly where we want it to. I've really only shown 5M starters so far, and although you might hit one of those occasionally, it's not super realistic. Most people are not going to be being hit by 5M on wake up. But thankfully, we can combo off of basically anything, as long as we apply what I've taken to calling the rule of tens. Now, in these loop combos, we want our standard S2 replay, that's that move, the second hit of that move, to connect on hit number 10. And the reason that we want to do that is because if we go any further, the hit stun scaling is actually going to cause our combo to drop. So when we're using our overhead and low starters, we need to adjust our combo filler to guarantee that we have enough hit stun to convert. So that's what we want to convert off of our overhead. First adjustment is just going to come from the beginning. You can't combo the overhead into a 5M after the replay. So you do need to go for a light there. So just the first M is going to be an L, and that'll look like this. Now we run into problem number 2. If you remember from earlier, during the 5M starter combo, after the first 6S2, we were at 3 hits. And remember, we can't go above 10, and we hit 10 exactly on the 5M starter, meaning that we need to remove a hit from somewhere else in the combo to account for the extra hit that we used early in the combo. And that hit is actually going to be the H of the second loop. We need the M to be able to convert just off of the speed of the move. The H is too slow, we'll drop the combo. So that is going to look like this. And you see right at the end there, after we did the second rewind, we had that yellow flash around us. That yellow flash indicates that we have ended the install. So after that, we can just go directly into this and then convert into our normal B&B. And that will look something like this. And of course, you can go into Tag Launcher there as well. You get, I think, if you go into Tag Launcher and then hit a level 3 with your second character, you get somewhere, well, like mid 800s damage. It's really good damage. Mess around with it, see what your team can get for that. For a low combo, the same idea applies. Starting with 2L means we're going to have an extra hit again, so we'll just pull that same heavy we did out of the second loop in the overhead combo out of the second loop here to satisfy that rule of tens. So remember that after you go into that S2 at the end, you can convert that into basically whatever you want. I've just been doing his standard corner B&B, but you can add in supers, you can add in tag launchers. The world is really your oyster. In this particular example, I'm going to go for the Time Under super and then a tag launcher, and that will take me corner to corner and do some pretty ridiculous damage. $923 damage, not half bad. And remember that you can adjust that combo to start it with an overheader low instead of 5M. Just remember, like we've been doing this whole time, follow that rule of tens. I think that just about wraps it all up, guys. Thanks for watching. You can find my Twitch and my socials down in the description if you want to give me a follow. And also feel free to tag me in anything that you guys do with these loops. I think there's a lot of potential here. If you do some really cool stuff, I'd love to see it. I'd also love to once again shout out PiketeFGC. Their Oki setup and messing around with their Oki setup is actually the catalyst that led me to messing around with these loops more. And their YouTube and Twitter are also going to be down in the description. Anyway, hope you all have a good one, and I'll see y'all next time.